You know those moments when you keep hearing a name over and over again in books, in poems, in movies, and you nod along like you totally know who they are? Then one day you realize, wait a minute, I've never actually looked into this person at all. Yeah, that was me with Harriet Tubman. I've read her name in so many works, always tied to boldness, strength, and almost mythical courage. But for some reason, I never actually took the time to explore her story. Then one day, I saw a copy of Freedom Train, The Story of Harriet Tubman by Dorothy Sterling, and in that moment, I didn't hesitate. No dithering, no, maybe later. Just straight to the checkout like Harriet herself was waiting outside, tapping her foot. Little did I know, this book was actually written for younger readers. Think junior high level. But let me tell you, that didn't stop it from packing in a whole lot of story. Our story begins with young Harriet Tubman growing up on a farm with her enslaved parents. And when I say growing up, I mean enduring a childhood that was as far from carefree as you can imagine. She was treated brutally, and one of those acts of cruelty, a blow to her head, ended up fracturing her skull. This wasn't just a passing injury, it left her with lifelong symptoms, including what we'd now call narcolepsy. She could fall asleep mid-conversation, mid-task, possibly even mid-rescue. But here's the thing. Even as a child, Harriet's spirit refused to be caged. She longed for freedom and to live life on her own terms. And when the opportunity finally came, she didn't just take it, she ran with it. Literally. Her escape wasn't a straight path of triumph, though. The journey to freedom was dangerous, uncertain, and for many, terrifying enough to turn back. In fact, when Harriet first set out with her brothers to head north, they actually lost their nerve and returned. But Harriet? Not a chance. She pressed on, determined to get to the Free States, and she did. Now here's where her story turns from brave woman escaped slavery into, well, a legendary figure who became a walking nightmare for slave owners. Harriet didn't just win her own freedom, she made it her life's mission to free others. Using an intricate system of coded messages, often hidden in songs, she led her parents, yes, her elderly parents, and her siblings out of slavery. And then she kept going, helping countless others. Her daring rescues earned her the nickname Moses, because like the biblical figure, she was leading her people out of bondage. People described her in near mythical terms, and not without reason. She traveled back into slave territory over and over, risking capture and death each time. And just when you think she might have stopped, circumstances made her work even more dangerous. The Fugitive Slave Act meant that even the North wasn't safe anymore. Runaway slaves could be captured and dragged back south, and those helping them could face severe punishment. But Harriet didn't slow down. This is also where you get a glimpse of the resilience and cunning that made her so effective. She used disguises. She relied on a network of trusted abolitionists. And she never lost a passenger, meaning everyone she guided made it to freedom. The book also reveals some fascinating personal details. Harriet believed she was of Ashanti descent from the Gold Coast, present-day Ghana. In fact, there's a character in the book named Cudjo, a very Ghanaian name. And she wasn't alone. Sojourner Truth, another towering abolitionist, was also born to parents of Gold Coast and Guinean heritage. It's a reminder that the transatlantic slave trade wasn't just numbers and dates. It was real people from real communities. The brutality described in the book is difficult to read, but it's also important to remember. Slaves were considered property, on par with livestock and furniture. They could be bought, sold, and controlled in every aspect of their lives. Marriage wasn't always a choice. If you were deemed unfit, you might be prevented from having children. And Harriet experienced all of this firsthand. After her head injury, her physical strength declined. Before that, she was extraordinarily strong, working long hours in the fields. But once she began experiencing her sudden sleep episodes, her work capacity decreased. This made her less profitable in the eyes of slave owners, but still not free. She eventually married John Tubman, a man who, unlike her, had no interest in escaping slavery. In fact, he was content to remain enslaved. Harriet, however, refused to let him tie her down, in a move that probably shocked him. and possibly made for the most awkward dinner conversation in history. She left for freedom without him. And that's the heart of this story, Harriet's unshakable will. The book can be read in a single day, but it covers a lifetime of relentless courage. The book I'm talking about is Freedom Train, the story of Harriet Tubman by Dorothy Sterling. First published in 1954, it's written in simple, accessible language, but don't let that fool you. It delivers an unforgettable portrait of one of history's most inspiring figures. Even though the prose is straightforward and aimed at younger readers, the story it tells is anything but simplistic. It's powerful, it's moving, and it's a necessary reminder of the resilience it took not just to survive, but to fight back against a system designed to crush you. I appreciated how Sterling wove in elements of African oral traditions, the songs, the storytelling that Harriet used in her work. It made the narrative feel culturally rich and authentic. And even when the author likely had to reconstruct events for storytelling purposes, it didn't feel like anything essential was lost. This book also underlines how much of African American history, especially the history of women, is tied directly to those who were just 1 or 2 generations removed from Africa. Harriet's story, and others like it, shaped not only the struggle for freedom, but also the cultural identity of Black America. Several themes stood out to me. First, freedom at all costs. Harriet's journey shows that liberty isn't given, it's taken, often at great personal risk. Second, the power of will. Her brothers turned back, her husband stayed behind, but Harriet pushed forward again and again. Third, community and solidarity. Her success depended on the Underground Railroad network and the courage of those who worked alongside her. Fourth, myth and reality. Harriet's Moses persona wasn't just a nickname. It was a living symbol that inspired others, even as she faced real, constant danger. And finally, the legacy of slavery. The book doesn't shy away from showing the cruelty of the system and its lingering effects, which still echo today in subtle and not-so-subtle forms of racism. Dorothy Sterling was an American writer and historian known for her works on African American history, especially books aimed at young readers. Born in 1913, she wrote extensively during the mid-20th century, a time when stories like Harriet Tubman's were rarely told in classrooms. Freedom Train is one of her most enduring works, introducing generations of students to Tubman's courage and leadership. Sterling had a talent for making history accessible without diluting its importance. By focusing on strong, real-life figures, she helped shape the way young people understood the struggles and triumphs of the past. Freedom Train may be a small book, but it's a big story. It's the kind of book you finish in one sitting, but keep thinking about long after you've put it down. Whether you're new to Harriet Tubman's life or you think you already know her, this is a story worth reading. Because sometimes the greatest heroes aren't the ones in epic fantasy novels. They're the ones who lived, fought, and won in the real world. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.